Platinum Games is back once again with its first original IP in quite some time, I suppose. This is Astral Chain, and I had a chance to play it last week at Nintendo's offices here in Germany, and walked away with some rather interesting impressions. And to discuss it, I brought along my good friend and colleague, Richard Ledbetter. Richard.
How's it going, John? I'm kind of wondering why I'm here. So why don't we clue the readers, the viewers into
let's
what's
clear
going
things
on.
up. So we're doing this format for this video because there are restrictions on what can be shown, and we're only really allowed to show maybe 5 minutes worth of gameplay footage. So as a result, you know, just to be able to discuss the game in a way that's not completely cut short, we decided to have a little discussion. So I think one of the issues that this game has faced from the beginning is it's what the heck is it? You look at the trailers, it's really not clear like what type of game this is, and I think you kind of get the same feeling that I did before I played it. So I feel like maybe you can help pull the information out of me that viewers might want to know that know nothing about this game.
Right, okay, so this is done by Platinum Games, which is pretty awesome. I mean, it's kind of almost like a seal of quality, right? But it's quite unlike any Platinum game that I can remember based on the media I've seen so far.
Yeah, that's actually, so they've dabbled in RPG-like games before, obviously. I mean, they did produce Nier Automata, but there was also Scalebound, which was obviously canceled, and that was more RPG-like. In a way, this kind of feels like another attempt to move in that direction, perhaps, by the team, where, yes, there is combat, it is an action game, but there is a lot more to it as well. And the structure is surprisingly complex, I guess you could say.
Right, okay, which makes the decision by Nintendo to only allow us to show 5 minutes of footage rather challenging.
Yes, yes. So first, let me kind of get the setup, and this is, I've thought about how I would describe this game from playing it, and it's a weird one, so bear with me, but I kind of thought you have like Platinum style combat, but mixed with a little bit of Deus Ex and a little bit of Zelda.
Okay.
And that sounds just kind of insane, right? But the reason I say that is, first of all, you're part of like some police squad known as Neuron, I believe. And the whole idea around the game is that these creatures have come to the planet, and they're basically taking humans. They're called the Chimera. They're basically bringing them back to their dimension. And humans have been reduced to this city called the Ark, basically, and you're surviving there. And you're part of the task force that kind of deals with this. And the whole conceit here is that you have this thing that you kind of connect on your arm, I guess, that links you to what's known as a legion, which is basically a large creature that fights alongside you. And the name Astral Chain comes from the blue chain that connects you to that creature, right? So yes, the core gameplay then involves fighting with this creature, but it's the way you get the missions that those comparisons come about and what the missions are actually like. So you're basically in a large headquarters for Neuron, basically, and it reminded me so much of like the UNATCO building in Deus Ex, and basically that headquarters kind of vibe where you have elevators, stairs, you can explore the whole base, there's people to talk to, you can fiddle around with the computers, you can use the restroom, you can just pick up random objects. I mean, there's just all kinds of random stuff to fiddle with, and it's really probably only there to sort of pull you into the world. And that's exactly what one of the things I loved about Deus Ex. Between all of the missions, you sort of had this like chance to just, you know, be in your environment, and that is definitely here, which is it's different, I guess, than the typical Platinum Games fair.
Yeah, I was watching the Nintendo E3 Treehouse coverage, and they were talking about something about rewards for visiting all the toilets.
Yeah, that's yes.
But I'm assuming that's just one tiny detail in what is a really big, sprawling game that we got here.
Yes, so yeah, we've established you can visit all the restrooms in the game. That's great. But really what happens is you get your missions here at the headquarters, and then you go out to essentially satisfy whatever conditions that may be. Now, in the case of the demo, that meant there was an accident or some kind of attack by one of the creatures, so they send you out into the field, and the first thing you do is Batman Arkham Detective Vision. Basically a system called Iris, where you bring up like sort of a computerized display, and you're looking at the scene and you're just seeing like the aftermath of what happened, and you can kind of like, it's basically got to piece together like, okay, what happened in the scene, why is it like this, and you're eavesdropping on people, you're sneaking around and looking at signs of destruction, and it's kind of a different thing, and it was kind of cool, I guess. But the main thing from there is once you figure out what has happened, then you actually kind of follow a path out to a portal that takes you into that alternate dimension where the thing that attacked had obviously retreated to, I suppose. God, it's just crazy. This is insanity, I know. It really is, but it's interesting when you play it. It's there, though, that you essentially wind up going into a completely different style of world. It's like the alternate dimension, and this is where it turns into more of like a big puzzle, like dungeon kind of thing. So you use your Legion to platform, like you can control, if you hold the L2 or ZL button, you can use the right stick to move him around freely. So you actually you can't jump normally, but you can move him over empty space. So there's like moving platforms and all kinds of stuff, and you have to move him over that, fling yourself over there. So there's puzzles there. There's like door puzzles, button puzzles. It's basically figuring out how to traverse through this large world, and along the way you face large creatures, which you then dispatch in typical Platinum style. But obviously the whole chain system means that it's a little bit more complex. Your main character is not nearly as powerful as a normal Platinum Games character, so you really have to rely on that link between them and performing combos with your Legion. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of the base. It's it seems to be mission and story driven. You go out into the world, you're finding clues, then you're going into these other dimensions and fighting creatures there, and yeah. So does that make sense at all?
Well, yes. I mean, I was kind of getting lost at the alternate dimension bit, but if it is literally just like almost like a Zelda-style dungeon, that kind of makes a lot more sense.
It kind of is. I mean, I don't know how complex they get, but that's what I was thinking of. It's, okay, there's puzzles to solve here, there's things to manipulate, and you have to figure out your way through this, and there's side areas and secrets, and it's that kind of thing. But I guess from the DF perspective then, there's the technology. And this is interesting. So, I mean, Platinum Games is usually all about that 60 frames per second goodness.
Yeah, but when I saw that treehouse footage, that wasn't the case for this one.
Yeah, so I'm going to say, I don't know what the basis is, but I can only assume that this is derived from the work they did with Nier Automata on PlayStation 4, where it targets a larger style world rather than the more bespoke maps that you saw in like Bayonetta, for instance. Only the actual rendering quality seems to be a step up overall from Nier, I think. A lot of great lighting. They use a lot of box projected cube maps, which is not a high-end feature, but it looks great. There's just a lot of cool special effects on display that I thought looked really nice, especially in the city. So obviously with the large scale and the nice visuals on display, yeah, it's a 30 frames per second game. And in the case of this unfinished build, it was surprisingly steady, I'd say. Not perfectly locked, but for a game that's, it's not yet finished, especially this build, it runs well, it looks good, and it does play nicely.
Mm-hmm. So is the sort of progression linear, or is it an open world, or what?
That's hard to say based on this demo. It was more... I assume that it is linear based on the way they set up like files, kind of like chapters, So you probably go through chapter by chapter, but you do seem to have access to a larger world to explore as you get into each chapter, basically.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. It does sound like, as you say, an offshoot of the work they've done with Nier, as opposed to their usual out-and-out blasting or beat-em-up style games.
Yeah, exactly. So that's kind of, that's kind of what I saw at this. So there's obviously not too much to take away from this technically, but since I did play it, I wanted to get a chance to sort of discuss the game a bit. When it hits for release, I think it's sometime in August even, so it's pretty close. I need to double check that though. But obviously I'll do a proper full analysis, and we'll get all the pixel counts finalized and ensure that we know how the final product runs. But in its current state, it's promising. Clearly, it's not 1080p right now, but it still has nice looking image quality, even in docked mode, and great rendering features.
Did you play it handheld?
No, they had the Switch parked in one of those little plastic cubes, so it was hands off on the cube. I guess you could call it was a GameCube, if you will.
Wow. Yeah, let's go there. I mean, I was actually quite impressed with the art style over and above the technology. They're doing it is a sort of modern rendering take on a kind of retro style. Call me crazy, but I was thinking Burning Rangers when I saw it.
Oh yeah, the mix of actually that's a good point. The sort of anime influenced character design with like sort of the high tech gear, and you're kind of part of a ranger force, if you will. I like that. I like that. Maybe man, we really need a new Burning Rangers.
We do.
That's what I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much it for this game. I mean, there's not a whole lot to say yet in this early form. This is just my first chance to play it, so to give us this kind of a little preview, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, usually if we've literally given just 5 minutes of capture to work with, we'd probably pass on it and wait for the full thing. But I get the idea that because we're sitting here and discussing it, you're quite excited about it, and maybe it needs a bit of evangelism before launch.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about that aspect because it's just all the preview coverage really hasn't done a great job of really showcasing what the game is, and that's kind of just the nature of the beast. It's a relatively complex style of game in the sense that there's so many disparate elements that come together into this whole thing. I mean, we've seen video where they're riding motorcycles and everything through the city. There's like shooting segments. I mean, Nier already did a lot of this stuff, but this seems to be going even further in that direction. So it's kind of exciting to see, and it feels really atypical, and I'm excited to see how it turns out. So
yeah, definitely. Oh, I can't wait to see your coverage.
Definitely. But I think that's going to wrap it up for now. So thanks for joining me, Rich.
No problems at all.
And if you enjoyed this video, as always, be sure to like and subscribe, ring the notification bell at the top, and follow us over on Twitter. And until next time, this is John and Rich signing off.